Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on Disney Plus. It's time for our weekly Q&A. This week it is a pre-recorded one because I am away, but we've got all of our Patreon and YouTube channel members a chance to submit questions in advance, and we've actually got quite a lot of them. So I'm going to be going through each question, and there's a lot of different topics. A lot of them are around the recent news of Hulu. But yeah, so we're just going to jump into it. But you can become a Patreon or YouTube channel member from as little as $2 a month, and it really helps support the channel. Means then we're not as reliant on advertising. You get to take part in these weekly Q&As. You get to take you get your name at the end of the shows. But overall, you're just helping out, and that is fantastic. But with that ado, let's jump into it. So obviously next week I'll be back to a live Q&A, but it's just for today. We'll be pre-recorded. Okay. Kaden asks, if Disney is planning to adapt more theme park attractions into films, what should they adapt and what should be avoided? So, I mean, I think like Space Mountain comes to mind as something that they could do. The one that instantly came to mind was Mystic Manor in Hong Kong. Disneyland is a fantastic story. It's kind of the Sea Adventures. They're kind of making some series of movies. There's been talk of that for a while, but I think Mystic Manor could work quite well. Big Thunder Mountain, there's been lots of talk about that in the past. It's the actual the graphic novel kind of has a story that's kind of interconnected a little bit with the Haunted Mansion, because it's kind of in Paris. It's like a ghost town. But yeah, so that one definitely kind of stands out to me. I suppose, I mean, the Matterhorn was kind of, I don't know if they could do something with that one. In terms of like original ones, I mean, like the Tiki Room, I mean, maybe they could do like a animated. I don't know if that would work. I think the trouble is a lot of the classic like Disney attractions, are they going to work in the 21st century with how they, I don't know. And there's so few of them left. I mean, there's a few like big ones left, like Carousel of Progress. I don't think that would work. But yeah, so for me, Big Thunder Mountain would be where I would probably start off. I mean, we've seen like Space Mountain pop up. They tried doing like Tomorrowland, and that kind of didn't really work. And they've done other things. But yeah, so for me, Big Thunder Mountain would be my top choice. I don't think what else they could do. Yeah, I think that would be the main one. Babak asks, could Disney keep the Hulu branding, buy, sell the tech and site to another company? They probably could do. I think the tech size, they own BAMTech, so they've got a lot of the technology in there. I think the question of who would want to buy it, because obviously all the other streaming services, they've all got their own technical teams. That's why Disney went after BAMTech, was to make sure that they had the technology to do it. In theory, they could sell it off. I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised if, say, like after they kind of do the little like this weird looking merger thing that they're doing, but it's not quite a merger, but it's still separate, but it's kind of together. They might end up selling off like the Hulu Live. Maybe they sell it off to Comcast. Maybe even sell it to YouTube TV, because they're kind of picking up. I mean, but overall, the linear business is dropping off. So I think that the Hulu Live TV might be the one thing that maybe they sell all the customers on to somebody else or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me if it was YouTube TV, because they're growing a lot. Connor says, do you think the PTMC would be crying into their beers on the night Disney announced the Hulu merger? So that is the parental rights ones. And I feel like, this situation I feel like there's definitely a group of parents and a group of audience that like to keep Disney Plus as this, like, I would say like a babysitting service that they feel that they can put it on, and they can trust that everything on there is suitable for their children. And I get that from the point of view of Disney Plus. I get that why that you might feel like that, but there's also an element of parental control over what your children watch is up to you. It's not up to a corporation. It's not up to a streaming service. You have the parental controls to go in there and set what you want, what age gaps, etc. Because what you deem as appropriate for your child, another parent might feel that's either is fine with it or might have a problem with it. So every parent's going to have different things. And ultimately, it is your choice to deal with what you feel is right. And I feel that is the key thing. I think as far as having, Hulu going into Disney Plus in the US, there's going to be parental controls. You're going to be able to set what you want. I ultimately feel that they have to kind of get with the times in some ways, that Disney cannot survive just on like animated shows of which they are a lot of them have got modern storylines in because that's what kids are watching. They don't want to watch shows from the 50s and the 60s. So I can see why some people have got issues with it, because especially where that was kind of what they view, and they've kind of got maybe an old-fashioned way of looking at the Disney brand. When especially you go to the theme parks, you can go out for a beer, you can go for a drink around Epcot. You have attractions based on all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I think it's just a little bit of a change, and yeah, I think eventually everyone will get used to it. I think we are going to see the Hulu brand use as a bridging gap in the same way that they use Star to kind of shoehorn it in until eventually everyone kind of got used to it. So Tim says, what can we expect from the Disney upfronts this week? I'm hoping that Raven's Home gets renewed for season 7, as I love that series. So as of right now, it is literally about to go off in about an hour or two from the time I'm recording. So I don't yet know what's going to happen. I'm not expecting anything big and glitzy in terms of new shows. With the writers' strike, they're going to be very tricky. So I'm not expecting a lot of stuff. And also the Disney Channel stuff, I don't know if it gets revealed there or not. I think they tend to hold off on a little bit of that. Daniel says, with the merged app, will the new section of Hulu be accessible there, or will it remain in the solo Hulu app? I don't know. I honestly don't know how that would work. I mean, ABC News is obviously a big part of it. Would they want that in there? I mean, it would make sense to have the ABC News like art things in there, but as far as like news, I don't know. I mean, they might want to be pushing people into ABC News, so that might make more sense. I mean, I love what I watch the news all the time. My wife is constantly telling me off, but I like watching a whole host of different networks. I like watching them from different channels and different formats and stuff. So for me, I mean, I'd love to have access to ABC News through Disney Plus, because it's quite nice having news from within in the US, because as all we've really kind of got here at the minute is like CNN. So it's nice having a little bit of variety. But I like watching news. Public says, may I ask you if the streaming wars was overhyped from the beginning? I don't think the streaming wars was overhyped. I think there has been a massive shift. I think there has been casualties on either side. There's been a lot of money spent. There's been a lot of blood spent. And we're in a new phase of the war. It's not over. And I feel, we are, they got a little bit bloodied and bruised, because I feel like the pandemic was like a supercharged. It was just, they took everything that had been going on for years and suddenly supercharged it, because it accelerated at such a rate because everybody was at home. People had to adapt. People were at home, and you had to have streaming services. So you picked up, the streaming numbers for all the platforms are all reducing. Television viewing is dropping, because you can't compare it to a year or 2 years or 3 years ago anymore, because that was different. We can go out. Restrictions are over. We're living lives a little bit more, and things are kind of going back to like pre-pandemic. And so yeah, trying to compare it, the numbers, it's like I've seen it like with the Mandalorian season 3 going, the numbers are massively down. Well, yeah, because the last time it came out, we were in a pandemic and we couldn't get out. So I think that's an issue. I think we are seeing now the studios have realized they can't just keep chasing subscribers. It has to be a profitable business. They have to make money, and chucking everything at streaming. It kind of made sense in the pandemic when they didn't really have any options. They couldn't send movies to cinemas. They couldn't, they had to do something. So it kind of made sense, but we're really seeing a shift now to making money, to being profitable. And I think that's better in the long run for the business side of things. I think we got a bit spoiled with having too much content, and all the streaming platforms spending a lot of money to try and get us as subscribers. I think the consolidation is probably the better thing for us to have. If you've got like Paramount, and Showtime together, and you've got Disney Plus and Hulu together, and you're starting to combine this content together, there's a lot of stuff, but you can't subscribe to them all. You can't watch them all. I know I'm at a point where I could unsubscribe to a couple. If my wife wasn't watching stuff on them, I probably would do much quicker. There's certain ones I watch more, and there's certain ones I don't watch at all. And I think most of us are probably getting to that point of going, do we want that one? So I think but I don't think it's overhyped. I just feel like there's different battles within it. And we're in a stage now where everyone is like, they're all recouping. They're trying to get their money together, trying to sort out the future, because Netflix only has to rely on one system. And that's what they've got. And that's all they're focused on. Disney is focused on theme parks, cruise lines, merchandise, books, they've got card games coming out. You've got pop vinyls. You've got all kinds of stuff, different things that they make money from. And so therefore that they are a little bit more spread out. And I think most of the studios are like that, which in some way makes them less reliant on the streaming. But it's going that way. But we're in that consolidation stage where it was impossible to have all these different streaming services. We are seeing them getting bloodied and bruised, because how many can you subscribe to, and how many are you willing to subscribe to, especially when they start creeping up to $15-20 a go? You're gonna be like, well, I'll have this one, and this one, or I'll have this one and this one. And you might bounce around a little bit more, but they're gonna try and get you out of that, I think. Dana says, do you think Disney is making the right decision on acquiring Hulu, which seems to be everyone's assumption, when they could have just done the Hotstar path here in the US? I get where you're coming from. I feel like in some way selling off Hulu was going to be tricky, because who was going to buy it? And also, what were they buying? Because if you take away all of the 20th century and the ABC and the content from them, what's left? Fox and a few like animes and stuff, and some random films. Without that content, it's not really that. They lose a lot of value. They're kind of, because Comcast can basically force them to buy them out anyway. So they, if Disney doesn't do it, Comcast can go, right, okay, we want our $9 billion now, please. Thank you very much. We need to pay for Epic Universe. So either way, it's happening. I feel like, I think they tried floating the idea, see if there was any interest in selling it. I think they've done the math and realized that they maybe what the people wanted, or nobody came forward. We just don't know. Maybe Comcast wants too much. But yeah, I feel like the Star Path would have made more sense. But that means, essentially you've got a $30 billion streaming service. You can't just throw that away and just, and so therefore this like a slow app coming in is a way of creeping everybody over and merging together a bit simpler, and also kind of keeping the Disney brand and just keeping it like it's like the Star launch. Bob Trolling said, do you believe that Disney Plus will resemble Hotstar in the US now that the Hulu is going to be an add-on to Disney Plus? You'd think so. They've just done the new Hotstar X version is rolling out to a number of countries. But then at the same time, Disney Plus in the US could have its entirely own platform. But I suspect what they're going to use there is probably going to end up rolling out globally at some point, because they can use that same app infrastructure with Star. I think actually it's probably more likely going to maybe like be a combination of like HBO, of Hotstar X and Star Plus, because they can then roll out this new version in Latin America and kind of do what they need to there. They can also use maybe a similar technology in other places. Here in the UK, they could then incorporate, the sports from ESPN Play. There's a lot of options for them opening if they get the new app. And also, Disney Plus hasn't really had a major update since Star was introduced over 2 years ago. Matt says, if you have a Hulu subscription, will you be able to access it through Disney Plus when they merge? Like I say, it's kind of a weird merger. You've got two separate applications, two separate sort of subscriptions, unless you've got the bundle, which kind of counts as one. You will be able to access it, but you just have to make sure that your Hulu subscription, I believe, will have to be linked to your Disney Plus subscription. It's not just you can't just have so that's going to be something to keep an eye on, I think. But we'll probably get more information on this a lot sooner. At the minute, we don't really know. Daniel says, do you think the merged Disney Plus Hulu app will display the new 20th Century Studios logo, movies, general entertainment shows on Disney Plus homepage, like they do with Star content internationally? Yeah, I think they currently be pushing to have that more as a brand. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there is like a Hulu hub, you go into that and then they have the hubs underneath for more adjustment, or for more like ways of doing it. I can see Disney Plus might go with the idea of that Hulu hub as a way of trying to, try and get people used to it. Tim says, has there been any updates on the Pixar TV series Win or Lose, which is coming out this year? So they are going to be doing a preview at the Annecy Film Festival in France in June. So they have confirmed that. So we're probably going to see some more information about that in mid-June when that happens. Connor says, even though they're not made by Disney themselves, do you see popular shows like NCIS and Walking Dead unaffected by the latest large-scale content purge? So NCIS, I think, is only on Disney Plus, like here in the UK, because of a long-standing deal that they had with the Fox network, which they brought. So that's constantly trending. Same thing with The Walking Dead. Now it's finished. It depends how long they've got the rights for. I think the trouble is with this content purge, and when they're going to be writing off a lot of stuff, is things that are hits, things that people are watching, things that are making money on advertising and all the rest of it. That's the stuff that doesn't go. They usually remove the stuff that people aren't watching, the shows that were a flop, the shows that had bad reviews and nobody watched, the shows that and films that people aren't watching in mass. That is that's one of the things of, when it gets out on the internet of like, this show's being removed or this film's being removed. They're very rarely massive shows. They don't tend to do that too much. It's generally the flops. And so The Walking Dead, 11 seasons, they got more coming. That's the kind of stuff. So that's the kind of thing. I do feel like sometimes we lose that with the stuff they're removing. They generally only remove the stuff that people aren't watching, or it's because if people were watching it, they'd see more value in it, and that's kind of the key issue. Daniel says, with the streaming or with the merged app coming, do you think they'll advertise next day streaming as stream next day on Disney Plus, or stream next day on Disney Plus and Hulu, or will it just remain Hulu? Well, we're starting to see with National Geographic, their advertising is now showing as both, but they're putting National Geographic stuff on Hulu as well. They're just spreading the content all around. It's almost like they're trying to become platform agnostic. I think we will probably have them start. I don't know how they're going to do the advertising campaign, whether or not it's Hulu on Disney Plus might be a way of doing it. That might, like they tried with FX on Hulu, they might do like that, or stream now through Hulu on Disney. I don't know. It's going to be hard to see how they do it. They've got to get the wording right. They've got to get that right. And that is a key thing, really, is getting all of that information right. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's like stream next day on Hulu at least for a few months, at least for 6 months to a year, they're going to be trying to offset it. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's a Disney Plus thing in there as well. And our final question comes from Baba. Do you believe that Bob Iger thinks that Max has potential to harm Disney Plus in the US, and that's why they're adding Hulu as an add-on to Disney Plus? I think it's a bit more than just Max. I think it's just a threat of all of them. You are looking at Peacock, you're looking at Paramount Plus, you're looking at HBO. Chapek had been talking about merging the apps and that they weren't ideal the way it was. The simple truth is, the different they were locked into a situation for at least 5 years when they brought Hulu out, when they launched Disney Plus. They couldn't do anything for essentially 5 years. And that has been the problem. They've been this 5 years, this thing's been going on for, and we're finally getting to like the end of it. But even now, there could be another year until it's all completely sorted. So I think Max, obviously HBO Max and Discovery Plus becoming one. I wouldn't be at all surprised if like Max and Stars and that'll start those apps I wouldn't be surprised if they end up getting removed from Hulu to make things a little bit more streamlined. Depends how much money they're making from it. That's the other key thing, because that would be even more weird is if you could access Max through Hulu, but then you can access that through Disney Plus. I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but then I suppose if they can make it, that seems like too many layers. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if that ends up getting removed and they start trimming down some of these things. It's a very, very interesting to see how all this coming out. I think Max is in a little bit of a funny situation because it's like Discovery Plus, a lot of people don't, I think, underestimate the value of that content to a massive audience. Because like with Showtime and Paramount Plus have done the same thing. It didn't seem to get the same reaction. But everyone went, well, it makes sense. And I feel like with Hulu, there is a big thing of most people are now like, and this is the key thing. They have said it now, because if it takes them 6 months to do it, by the time it happens, it's crept into your mindset. It's been on headlines, and people are going to start getting used to that idea. And that's what a lot of this is setting the tone and getting us ready for it. But Yeah. But I'd love to know what you think of all of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to go check us out over at What's on Disney Plus. A big thank you to all of our Patreon and YouTube channel members for your questions. It was fantastic. I'll be back next week with another live Q&A at the same time that it normally happens. Look out for a post throughout the week where that will be going up. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. See you later.